I don't know a whole lot about YouTube. I'm not that good at coming up with ideas. My thumbnails are okay, but if there's one thing that I'm good at, it's how to write a great YouTube script. And that's exactly what we're gonna be talking about today. In the last 9 months, I've written YouTube scripts for 40 plus educational channels and helped them gain millions of views and generate millions of dollars in revenue for their business. I've worked with channels like Instantly AI, Hype Fury, and Davey Fogarty, and other channels with millions of subscribers. And my clients pay me thousands of dollars to write scripts for them. In this video, I'm going to review everything that you need to know about how to write a killer YouTube script that will get you millions of views. But before I get into the content, I have some bad news. This video is going to be over an hour long. So if you don't have the attention span to watch this video for 5 minutes and take notes, sorry to tell you, but you're probably not gonna make it. We're gonna be talking about why you should script a video in the first place, how to come up with video ideas, my 5-step system to creating viral scripts, how to write a hook, how to write the body section, how to write a high converting call to action, and breakdowns of my best personal brand videos and documentary scripts. And that way you can see my thought process writing scripts from start to finish, and you can replicate my exact process. By the end of this video, my promise to you is that you will have everything that you need to write a script from start to finish in half the time and have your video perform better. Let's get into it. So a little bit more about myself, right? These are some of the best performing videos that I've scripted. One of the channels that I script for is Instantly AI. They're the biggest code email software company, and we grew their channel from 5,000 subscribers to 16,000 subscribers in 5 months. They were barely getting any views when they first started, and with our videos, they've added thousands of new users to their code email software, and that's usually well over 6 figures in revenue generated. Some of the videos that we scripted, 130,000 views in 7 months, might not sound like a lot, but in the code email niche where there's actually a very small number of people who consume the code email videos, this video alone generated 6 figures in revenues, on its way to another 100,000 views. Or this video, 26,000 views in 3 months. Also, very small niche in code email, so it's pretty good. 19,000 views in 1 month. Or another of our clients, Brooke Hiddink, right? He sells high-ticket dropshipping consulting, so he's also in the education space. We scaled his YouTube channel from doing 2K a month to now over 50K a month, and his channel's at over 75,000 subscribers right now. This video got 69,000 views in 4 months, which is really remarkable considering the number of sales that he get from a video like this. This video 17,000 views in 3 months. This other video 34,000 views in 2 months. And then there's me. So I started my own channel so that I've skin in the game, so that I actually script my own videos, so I know what I'm talking about. And I've grown the channel to 1,000 subs in 23 days from just 3 videos. And from these videos alone, we got 30 calls booked in 23 days for my script writing service. So this very first video, 10K views and 500 subs in 2 weeks on a completely new account. So you can check this out on my channel. Or this video, which also did pretty well, 11,000 views in 5 days with 10 booked calls. So these are like sales calls for people wanting to work with me on script writing. Or this is another channel that I worked on, right? Gambling documentary channel, Tilt 223. We scripted their very first video, which got over 277,000 views, and it's their second best performer to date. So the video is The Man Who Cheated Vegas and Almost Got Away. So you can check all of these videos out. So the big question is, why even script in the first place? So to understand why we want to script in the first place, we have to first understand what makes a video go viral. Is it looking at the average view duration, AVD? Is it looking at the click-through rate of the video? Or is it looking at the retention, right? Or is it some combination of all of these? So while all of these are important metrics to look at, there is ultimately one metric that YouTube looks at to decide whether they should push your video to a wider audience. And that answer is viewer satisfaction, right? So satisfaction go up, your videos get viewed more. What viewer satisfaction actually means is how much people actually enjoy your video. So if people enjoy your video, YouTube will push your video more. Viewer satisfaction is measured by whether people leave your video feeling good, meaning whether they are entertained or they've learned something new or it was an emotional experience. You need to have, one element of these or all 3 of these combined. And the way YouTube really measures this is like, what's the view to like ratio? What's the number of positive comments? How long do people watch the video for? Do they share it with their friends? Do they download it to rewatch? And really, when you script your video, you can make a better video that is, number 1, more informational. Number 2, more entertaining. Number 3, will change the day of your viewer. So really, one of the big reasons to write a script is so that you can maximize your viewer satisfaction. And if your viewer satisfaction of your videos is higher, your videos will just perform better. So you want the content to actually be better, more informational, so people will consume it. So that's reason number 1. What's reason number 2? Alex Hormozi, one of the biggest entrepreneurs right now, one of the biggest YouTube personal brands in the business space, said this in one of his recent videos. He's been going from doing post-production to pre-research. So that means instead of doing 4 weeks of editing, he's now doing 4 weeks of research for his videos. And he also said this: for educational videos, an ounce of pre-work is worth a pound of post. This is also probably true for entertainment type videos. So what this actually means is that the more effort that you do in the pre-work, in the research stage, in the scripting stage, it is worth much more in the post-production because you don't actually have to spend as much time, you don't have to spend as much money on the post-production. Really, if you want to get ahead of your competition, I would listen to those ahead of you. So people like Hormozy. A big reason that you want to script is really the time savings and the focus savings. So one of my clients, I just put a large text block here, but he said that because I saved him the time of writing the script, he had the bandwidth to close $40,000 in sales, right? All he has to do is get on camera and just record himself. Really, one of the big reasons to write a script, even though it takes the most amount of time, is to save time, because it saves time in your post-production, it saves time when you are recording. I need to write a script so the video performs better and I save time. But this guy doesn't script. So this is Charlie Morgan. He's one of the bigger business faces right now. He said, I figured out how to actually get rich, 447K views. This video technically has no script. He was just using his phone and whatnot. Or this video, right? The raw reality of making 500K per month. No script. What gives? But really, there is something that you are completely missing, right? Those videos are actually scripted. They don't look scripted, but they are actually scripted to some degree, right? So they might come off super authentic, but when you watch those specific videos, the words that come out of their mouth have a lot of thought put into it. Almost like they've been thinking about these concepts for their whole lives, right? So combined with their copywriting experience, it makes it easy for them to go completely quote unquote raw and still get views. And so I guarantee these guys would have at least written what they want to talk about in bullets before they started filming. But really, those videos performing well in the authentic style actually brings up a benefit of scripted videos. A good script can take a barely edited video far, because if you have a good script, the content will be good and the writing will be good. And if the writing is good and the content is good, people will just want to watch because of the information that you have to say. Why would you not write a script for your videos? The answer is you should, right? That's why you're watching this video in the very first place. To even understand why we should script, we have to understand what the definition of scripting is. And the definition of scripting is this: it's to write the words of a film, play, broadcast, or speech. But in the context of YouTube, scripting really just means planning, right? So scripting a YouTube video doesn't necessarily mean writing out every single word, right? Even though it could be that, but it simply just means planning more. So it's planning what you want to say in the hook, planning the direction of the video, planning the outro, right? Scripting is the work that you do before getting on camera. A Google Docs is a script. If you write a full Google Doc and you just talk over it, I would consider that a script. A PowerPoint slide is a script, right? So something like what I'm presenting right now, this is from Hormozy, right? Flow charts and drawings are considered a script. So this is just on a board, some drawings. Even bullet points are considered a script, right? So this is a script that I wrote, just a couple bullet points. And only by scripting your videos can you actually make them more actionable, effortless to consume. It shows your personality, have a feel-good factor, be entertaining and humorous, give the viewer exactly what they want, and cater to a new audience and your existing audience at the same time. When you really put the thought into making your video the best video possible and you actually script your video, that is when you can achieve something like that, where your video, it just becomes really, really great. That brings us to the next question of, should you completely write out your script, right? There's kind of the more raw, authentic guys who, probably just write a couple of bullets and they just go off the top of their head. And then there's also, people who make full slides, who write out the full script word for word. And that's exactly what I'm going to answer right now. So really, there are two ways to write out a script. And number one, it's bullet points. And number two is to completely flesh it out. So how do you know which one is for you? And I'm going to give you a couple criteria that you can look at so that you kind of know which one is better for you. You want to write bullet points if you're coherent on camera. Number two, your content is less formal and more conversational, right? Then it's fine to write bullets. Number three, you have good memory and you can remember the key points you want to cover without a full script. Number four, your video is relatively short and doesn't require a complex narrative or structure. And number five, it's more of a personal brand, not a documentary. But if you want to ensure that you cover all the necessary information and don't forget any important points, then you want to write a full script. Or you have a tendency to ramble or go off topic when speaking without a script, you want to write a full script. You're not confident in your ability to speak off the cuff or improvise effectively, write a full script, right? You need to include specific data and quotes, right? I'd write that all down. Or you want to practice and refine your delivery before recording. It means just reading out the full script multiple times before you get on camera, so that when you get on camera, it's a lot easier. In my professional opinion, right, should you write a full script or should you write it in bullets? I personally think, from writing over 500 scripts in the span of the past 6 months, really the best performing scripts are the ones that are fleshed out word for word. I personally find that writing a full script will eventually pay off, even though it takes more time, but it's a lot easier to get on camera. It's a lot easier to edit in post. And one last thing before we cut to the real sauce, just like how you need to be able to taste food before you learn how to cook, to actually write a good script, we need to know what a good script looks like. What makes a good script a good script? And I've boiled it down to these 4 criteria. So number one is the language used incredibly simple? If the language used is incredibly simple, it's a great script. Number two, does the script give the audience exactly what they want? If you click on the video, the script doesn't give the audience what it wants, is it really a good script? Probably not. And number three, right? I think this is a very underrated metric. Would you pay $100 for your video? Would you pay $100 to go and watch your video in the cinema? And if you personally wouldn't pay $100 to go watch your own video, then your video is probably not good enough. And number four, I think it's the most obvious. Would you watch this video? If you wouldn't watch your own video, if you wouldn't watch your own script, why are you even writing it in the first place? I have a checklist for what makes a great script. So this is what I use internally and my team. So over here, I attached it on a Google Docs if you want to have access to it. So click the link in the description, subscribe to our newsletter, and I'll send over this checklist to your inbox along with this full presentation. By this point, we have covered number one, why write a script in the first place? And number two, scripting just means planning more, right? So whether that's planning in a Google Doc, PowerPoint presentation, or just drawing some graphics. So just plan more. And number three, should you completely write out your scripts? Number four, what makes a good script a good script? So now let's talk about how to script a video. So the very first step of writing a great script is something that people completely overlook, but it's actually one of the most important parts of writing a great script. Most people just go straight into writing the script. They'll just write a script and then they'll decide afterwards what they want their title to be, which is, I think, the completely wrong way to go about it. You first want to determine what the title of the video is before you even get into scripting the video, because really the title will set the expectations for the video, and then your script has to meet those expectations. It's kind of like going to your girlfriend's parents' house without your girlfriend telling you what her parents are like. You won't know what the expectations are, and it's going to be a total disaster, right? You won't know how to match that. So what that means is that the first step is to start with the idea or the title. And to really understand what the different types of ideas, the different types of titles are, we first have to understand what the four types of videos that you could potentially be scripting. Number one, it is a viral VSL. Number two is story videos. Number three is challenge videos. Number four is documentary videos. Now I know that there are more than just these four types of videos. There are top 10 videos, compilation videos, but if I were to really focus in, I would focus on just these four, because this is quite a good chunk of the number of videos that most of you guys will be scripting. So let's get into it. So first one is a viral video sales letter. A video sales letter is just a video designed to sell a product or service in an engaging storytelling format that gets viewers to buy something. So it often aims to go viral by being very shareable. So it uses persuasion techniques to make an emotional connection and convince viewers that they need to buy the product. The video is also more value-based, but we are selling the viewers on a set of beliefs every time. So one example would be this video, right? My video, how Iman Gadzhi made $40 million from one YouTube video. And the reason why this is kind of like called a video sales letter is because I'm selling the viewers on a set of beliefs. Through this, I showed my understanding of the different copywriting techniques that Iman possibly used. And from there, if the viewers are interested in how Iman Gadzhi actually scripted that video, right? They'd watch it and then they'd see me as an expert. And then from there, they would come and ask me, oh, how does he actually script it? Or can you help me script something like this? So number one is a viral video sales letter. Number two is a story video. So a story video, is a narrative driven video that tells a compelling story, often focusing on the journey or character arc of, somebody. Right? So this could be like a documentary story or just like a personal branding story. So really it uses storytelling elements like drama, conflict resolution to draw viewers in and evoke emotion. And then there's the challenge type videos, right? So it's a video where the creator takes on some kind of challenge, stunt or experiment. So really the core of it is to entertain through the creator's reactions and commentary while taking on the challenge. This is also technically a viral VSL because the challenge videos are also meant to sell the viewers on a set of beliefs in order to buy a product. And then there's the documentary video, right? So this could be a non-fictional informational video that documents events, people, places, or ideas from real life. And typically it aims to educate or convince viewers about a topic, person, or event. So you could use interviews, facts, statistics presented in a narrative framework and using compelling footage. You need to know what type of video you're scripting so that you can write the script in the right way. Which brings us to the next question of how do you find these video ideas? So we've just gone over the four types of videos. How can you find these video ideas? And the simple answer is that you can use outlier theory, right? And I'm gonna explain what this is. A couple examples of outlier theory. So for example, Mr. Beast saw this thumbnail, right? Trains versus pits on the left, and he did his own version of it, right? Train versus giant pit. Or Eric, right? Who saw this thumbnail on the left, 441 million views, and he did it for his own thumbnail. He did his own version. What does outliers actually mean? Outliers are just videos that are performing above average. So a great way to come up with video ideas is to really take inspiration from what is already working on YouTube, right? Outlier theory is just one of the ways to come up with ideas, and it's the main way that I use to come up with video ideas. So rather than coming up with an idea from thin air that could completely flop, instead, you actually want to look at what's already working on YouTube and you want to model it. I've done it too, right? So this is a video by John Dorman, right? How to create a killer YouTube video, right? I did my own version over here at the bottom. So these are the 4 main ways to apply outlier theory. I'm going to explain how each of these works. So number 1, you could look at videos from small creators that are clear outliers. Number 2, big creators in your niche. Number 3, videos from adjacent niches performing well. And number 4, videos from broad niches performing well. For small creators that have outlier videos, one example is this guy, right? This guy, Tastetic, he got 100K views on this specific video, right? And this was when he was at, just a couple thousand subscribers. So 100K views is really outstanding. And this guy over here, right? He basically took a similar title and he added 2024. And then you can also look at big creators in your niche, right? So for example, this video by Andrew Yu, 1.2 million in 30 days with drop shipping. This guy at the bottom and along with many other creators took the similar format in the thumbnail. So it's like the Shopify dashboard on the left, his face on the right, and there's the red line in the center. 1.8 mil TikTok dropshipping in 30 days. So you can take inspiration from big creators in your niche with really good outliers, or videos from adjacent niches, right? And what adjacent niches mean is looking at niches that are similar or closely related to each other. The example that I have pulled up here is looking at Facebook ads and cold email, right? Because Facebook ads is a way for you to get clients. Cold email is also a way for you to get clients, right? If you're looking in the business niche. And lastly, it's looking at videos from broader niches. So if you're in the Instagram growth niche, say you're making videos there, you can look at what's working within social media growth, right? And if you are in social media growth, you can look at what's happening in the business niche, because the business niche encompasses all of social media growth and Instagram growth. In the business niche, there's also a couple more different pockets. So if you're in the Instagram growth niche, you can look at what's working within the broad business niche, and then you can apply it to your own channel. For example, right, looking at Alex Hormozi in the business niche, right, he had this video, how to get so rich you question the meaning of making money. To YouTube growth, this video is by Learn by Leo, right, 572K views, how to edit so good your viewers get addicted to your videos. So it is a similar format, but he adapted it to the YouTube growth niche, and his videos perform really well. Or here's another example from the coding niche, right? How to make FU money with coding, to this video, right, by Daniel Bidden, how to make FU money as a teenager, right? So he applied what's working in the coding niche to what's working in business. So he just took the similar format and he applied it for himself and got over 223K views in just 2 months, which is outstanding. So just to recap, these are the 4 ways to apply outlier theory. Number 1, you want to look at small creators that have videos that are clear outliers. Number 2, look at big creators in your niche. Number 3, videos from adjacent niches performing well. And number 4, videos from broad niches performing well. The big question is, how do you find these outliers? Number 1, my big advice is to be on YouTube a lot. If you are scrolling a lot on YouTube, actually looking for specific videos, if you go on incognito tab, if you start a new account and you follow a lot of the accounts within your specific niche, you will stumble upon a lot of these outliers, and from there you can take inspiration. But if not, the other alternative is to use viewstats.com. So Mr. Beast just released viewstats.com, which is a way for you to find outliers. You can also do thumbnail search and A/B testing. Viewstats.com basically allows you to search certain keywords and find outliers within that specific niche. Or you can also use the outlier format cheat sheet. So this is mainly for education businesses. So once again, if you want to have access to this outlier format cheat sheet, I'm going to link this presentation in the description so that you can have access to this presentation, and then you can go here and you can click on this outlier format cheat sheet, and that way you can get inspiration for your first 60 video ideas. It's one of the easiest ways in order to get ideas if you are, within the education niche. So in terms of action items, right, you can go to YouTube or use viewstats.com to find ideas, and then you can search for these outliers. And what I want you to do is I want you to write 100 video ideas and titles based on these outliers. Not all 100 ideas would be great. What you're trying to do is you're trying to find, the few ideas that really work. So from the 100 ideas, you can filter it down to the top 10 ideas. And then in the top 10 ideas, you can usually use some of those to create a couple of videos. But in terms of an action item, I want you to pick one of them to create your first video if you haven't already created your first video, or to create your next video. Now that we have the idea, the next step is to do research for your video. And what research really means is that you want to find what videos have been made about a certain topic and to find out what videos people want to watch right now. To really understand what kind of ideas really work, you actually have to understand what's happening on YouTube, because YouTube is a race, right? YouTube is a competition. Everybody is competing for the same amount of attention. So really, some of my favorite ways to do research on how to execute a certain script is this. Number one, I think scrolling the comment section is underrated, right? So what I do is I scroll the comment section to figure out what other people are saying. So really, the comment section is really underrated because it is the only way for an audience to communicate with a video and creator within YouTube. Really, from the comment section, you can figure out what parts of a video people like, what do people have opinions about, what kind of content do they want, and really this will show you the kind of videos people want to watch. There was this video, I gave an AI bot $30,000 to trade stocks. So this video was released a year ago, 2.4 million views. You can see a 66x outlier, which is pretty outstanding. But when I was watching the video, I found this comment, right, which said over here, 1340 trade results are here. So basically you click here if you want to see the trade results. So really what this indicated to me was that the video was probably too long. What can you kind of determine from this, right? You could kind of create a thesis to say that you want to create a shorter, more remarkable video to get the same, if not better results. So instead of making a 20-minute video, you could potentially make a 10-minute video or 15-minute video. And then from there, that's kind of an improvement on the current video idea. So that's kind of how you make your own spin on it. So really, the second way that I like to do research is to find the top creators in your niche and sort their videos by most popular and study each video. And the reason you want to study each video is because if they have the most subscribers in your niche, they are probably doing something right. When you're watching each video, I think you really want to look out for, what the type of creative format is, what emotion do the thumbnail and title bring out, what made this specific hook effective, what made the storytelling of the video effective, why did most viewers watch to the end. And I think if you do this for enough channels, you'll be able to reverse engineer the success of their videos and apply those same concepts to your own videos. The goal when you're doing this is to find the reasons for their success, model it, and improve on it. And really, when you're watching these videos, you need to identify why those videos work, model the good parts, and integrate your own knowledge so that it is even better, right? Emphasis on better, because if you want to win on YouTube, you need to be better than your competition. So another really big question that I get is, how do I know when to stop research? For me, there is no one set timeline for research, but you can end the research phase once you feel you have the information that you need, or you have digested all of the information needed, and then you can just go on to write the script. So now that we've got all the research that we need for the video, that brings us to arguably the most important part of writing the script. And this part can literally be the difference between a 1 million view video and a 10 million view video. And that is writing the hook. The job of the hook is really to do two things. Number one, validate the click on the video. And number two, create intrigue so that they want to watch the rest of the video. So the hook is the first 30 seconds, right? And really you have less than 30 seconds before the viewer decides to watch the rest of the video or continue watching till the end. And if you nail the hook, your retention in the first 30 seconds can be upwards of 50, 60%. Sometimes I've even seen 70%. And if I would describe what the elements of an effective hook are, is that number one, you want your hook to be clear. And number two, you want it to be engaging because you want to reel the viewer in to watch the rest of the video. So you need to avoid these if you want to have a great hook. If you want your hook to be number one, clear, and number two, engaging, you need to avoid jargon. And when I say jargon, I mean words like prospect, clients, ROAS. So ROAS means return on ad spend. So if you use specific jargon, most people won't understand what your hook means. So you need to avoid jargon. Number two, you need to avoid over-explaining. So that is selling the video too hard. And number three is, I'd say, excessive credentials, right? So that's credentials when not necessary. It is giving the viewer too much information when it's not necessary or it doesn't add to the video. So we really want to be conscious about the kind of viewer that will click on the video and how we can use our language to appeal to them. And what that really means is using simple language. So when you're writing a hook, you want to use language that appeals to a wide audience. Because if your hook can appeal to a wide audience and you can get many people to watch, then your video retention will just be a lot higher in the first 30 seconds, right? And that means keeping the language used below a 5th grade reading level. So words like, as I said, jargon, right? Prospect or ROI means return on investment, should be replaced with words like customer, words like returns, right? Respectively. And that way we can cast a wide net and cater to as large an audience as possible. So simple language is king. This is something that I reiterate over and over again to people that I help with script writing. You want to keep the language simple. You want to simplify a lot of the language. And if I were to define what a hook is the first line, which is the first 5 seconds, and then it's the introduction. These are the 10 types of first liners. I want you to screenshot this. I want you to save this because these are the most important 10 types of first liners that I've seen that are really effective. So number one, it's the question hook. So have you ever wondered what would happen to your business if you sent 1 million emails? Number two, it's the shocking statement, right? You've been working out wrong this whole time. Number three, it's the storytelling hook, which is I went from negative $150,000 in debt to over $5 million in just 3 years. This is my story. So you start with a story. Number four, it's the preview hook, right? So it's watch me turn $100 to $10,000 trading stocks in 24 hours. Or, this could just be a bunch of clips in the preview. Number five, it's the personal connection. So it starts with a story again. In my college days, I suffered from anxiety. Number six, a statistic or fact hook. So like 90% of businesses shut down after the first 3 years. Number seven, it's the challenge hook. So I scaled 4 e-commerce stores to 6 to multi 8 figures in the past 3 years to prove it's not luck. Number 8, it's the quotation hook, right? Alex Hormozi said that if he were to start over again, he'd start a service-based business. So quotations from experts is also a really great hook. Number 9, the metaphor hook. So you are a hunter. And number 10, the proof hook, right? I've generated $10 million for my clients combined using cold email. So these are really the 10 types of first liners that you can use. What I found when I'm writing a hook is that writing the very first line is the most difficult, right? After you can write the first line, the second line usually flows after it. And after you write the second line, the third line flows after it. But figuring out the very first line, having something on paper is the most difficult. So if you do struggle with that, I encourage you to screenshot this so that you can have inspiration for your first lines. These are usually the types of first liners that I use. Nothing too crazy. Let's talk about the introduction next. So really the goal of the introduction, which is everything after the first line, so after the first second, the rest of it is the introduction, is really to do 3 things, right? It is to, number one, give context to the video. Number two, set the stakes, right? So, like what's going to happen if I don't achieve it? Or number 3, establish the main payoff of the video. So payoff meaning is like, okay, what am I going to get from watching the video? So really the introduction is the bridge between the hook and the main content of the video. And the payoff is what the viewer will get or learn when they watch the video. This is an action item, okay? This is how you write a hook. When you're writing the hook, I want you to list out what questions the viewer will have when they see the title and thumbnail. The introduction needs to answer all of these questions in order to set proper expectations. A really specific example would be, say for this video, right? This video got 123K views on Instantly. I showed it above previously. It's titled Alex Hormozi's $100 million cold email strategy. So when you're looking at this video title, what questions will pop into the viewer's mind, right? You just list out those questions and then you answer them, okay? This works for pretty much every single video title that I have seen. So what are the questions that people will have, right? It could be number 1, how did Alex's cold email strategy make him $100 million? Number 2, is his cold email strategy effective? That's also another question that people could have. Number 3, is it easy to implement his strategy? Number 4, can I use it to make money for my business? These are the 4 questions that I've listed out. Obviously, you can list out more questions. So like how much time will it take for me to implement this cold email strategy? But you can usually list out, maybe 10 questions at most, but then you want to filter it down to the most important 4 to 5 questions. There are usually 4 to 5 questions that are super burning in the viewer's mind that you have to answer. And I've kind of filtered it out to these 4. And then to write the hook, you just answer all of them, right? So first question, how did Alex's cold email strategy make him $100 million? I said, Alex Hormozi uses cold outreach to generate zillions of leads across his portfolio companies without lifting a finger. And today I'm going to be revealing Alex Hormozi's full cold email strategy. This is the exact strategy that saved his company gym launch during a time. So this part in yellow is his cold email strategy effective? It's effective because it saved his company gym launch when it seemed like he was about to go bankrupt, right? Can I use it to make money for my business? That answers that, right? You can use it to make money for your business because he used it to save his company when it was about to go bankrupt. So how does Alex Hormozi do it? I spent the last week breaking down Alex Hormozi's cold email strategy so you don't have to. I'll boil it down to 4 key steps that make his cold email strategy effective, right? So boiling it down to 4 key steps, you think it's really complicated, but it's actually just these 4 key steps that makes it easy to implement. So that's for number 3, right? Is it easy to implement strategy? So really why this hook works is because number 1, we answered every single question. Number 2, right? In the very first line, I said Alex Hormozi generated zillions of leads, right? So, and zillions of leads is something most people haven't heard of, right? It's really noteworthy. It immediately catches the viewer's attention. And the introduction also lays out the payoffs for what the viewer will learn from the rest of the video. And it's also easy to consume in 4 key steps. So if you notice in the introduction, every single line has to have a purpose. If any line doesn't reel the viewer in and doesn't add context for the viewer to listen to the next line, it should be cut, right? You have to be very, very precise with your language. This is the first 30 seconds. It is the difference between a 1 million view video and a 10 million view video. It is that important for you to nail your hook. So you want to spend a ton of time writing your hook. And if this still sounds complex, right? I've compiled a hook swipe file. So this is all of the hooks that I've written over the past 6 months. I've taken the best 30 to 40 hooks that I've written for all of these educational channels, and I've put it together in a swipe file, and I'm going to give you guys access to it. So if you guys want access to it, once again, subscribe to the newsletter, go to the link in the description, subscribe to the newsletter. I'm going to send this presentation to your inbox so that way you can have access to all of the resources that I've just mentioned, right? And I'll send you daily emails on how to write better scripts and how to grow on YouTube. Okay, let's get back to it, right? Now that we have the hook nailed down, let's get into the meat and potatoes. That is how to write the body. So for the body, this section will determine whether the viewer actually finds the video valuable. And to keep the viewer engaged, we want to insert sub points into the video. And each sub point could be, say, it could be start of an idea and then create a thumbnail and write a script. Say I'm teaching the viewer how to create a YouTube video, right? Start of the idea, create a thumbnail, and write the script. Another big element that I want to mention is an open loop. So when you explain a point completely to a viewer, it's like giving your audience a reward, and they feel good once they've learned each new step. And the job of the script is to present each next step as more important than the previous one, so that the viewer will stay anticipating each next step. And we do this by creating an open loop. So if you're still not sure what that is, I'll explain that right now. So an open loop just means a transition with building curiosity. So instead of directly telling the viewer the next step is how to write a great script, I'm going to use an open loop, and I'm going to show you what that looks like. So when you're writing a body, this is a simple outline that you can potentially use, right? So instead of mentioning the point outright, we actually want to mention the point all the way at the end. So this is the start of the body, right? You start with the open loop, and then you talk about the point. Open loop and then point, open loop and point, right? And specifically, I'm going to show you how to fill this out. So with the specific points that I mentioned, say how to make a great video, right? What are the points? Number 1, come up with a great video idea. Number 2, create a title and thumbnail. And number 3, write a great script. So you've kind of filled out the points. And then, right, before you mention the point, right, you want to mention the point only at the end, right? Because you want to build curiosity towards that. The open loop is a transition from the previous point that also builds curiosity, right? So a couple open loops that we can use over here that I've scripted out. The first step is the one that is by far the most important and yet also the most overlooked. A good open loop is a transition with curiosity, right? So listen to this. The first step is the one that is by far the most important yet also the most overlooked. Here's another example. But after coming up with ideas, there is one thing that YouTubers will completely neglect and leave till the end of the video creation process, when in reality, it should actually be one of the first things that you do. The next open loop, right? This next step I'm about to share with you is perhaps the most disregarded step of them all, and yet is the one that drives the most results. So now we have scripted the open loop and point, open loop and point, open loop and point. So that's kind of like the skeleton that we have for the full video. But now we actually have to get into scripting the actual content. So what I like to do is I want to start with bullet points. When you're scripting an explanation for each point, you start off by writing bullet points. So the reason you don't just want to, write the full thing initially without writing any bullet points is because it's usually really hard to follow the logic without writing it out in bullets. You notice if you just write the full body out, it usually comes out, not very clear. But if you start off by writing bullet points, you'll kind of give guidance to yourself on how to actually string it together, assuming you are writing out the full script. Really, when you're starting with bullets, you want to use what I call assumptive questions. And really what this means, really you want to ask yourself, what questions would a viewer have for this section? So if I were to script point 1, which is come up with a great video idea, the main questions that I want to answer in my script are, number 1, why is a great idea important? Number 2, what is proof that a great idea is important? Number 3, did anybody credible say that a great idea is the first step? And number 4, how do I come up with a great idea? And if you notice over here, we start with why is something important? What is the proof? And how do I come up with idea? So for really any point that I talk about, I want to start with why is it important? What is it? And how do I implement something like this? So let me show you an example. These are the bullets that I write just based on answering these questions, right? A great idea gets you millions of views with only a few more hours of effort compared to filming hundreds of additional hours of mediocre content. That answers why is a great idea important. Number 2, what is proof that a great idea is important, right? If you look at Mr. Beast's channel, he uploaded 22 videos in 2023. If he wanted to, he could have uploaded 1 video a week, but he decides to put 3 times more energy into his best video ideas because the idea behind the video is that important. Question number 3, right? Did anybody credible say that a great video idea is the first step? Over here, I can play a Mr. Beast clip saying that the idea is important. So there's also not just scripting it out, but there's also the audio visual storytelling that I'm thinking of. And number 4, how do I come up with a great idea? Write 100 ideas and narrow it down to a handful of ideas, which is also the advice that I gave you previously. After writing it out in bullets, you can write out the full thing, right? So really at this point, we've completed doing research, writing the hook, and writing bullet points. So now put it all together in a full script, right? And really when you're putting it all together and you're stringing the sentences together, one of the things that I'm always thinking about is the level of storytelling, right? This is always something that I get Q&A on. What is the level of storytelling that we need to meet? And really Steve Jobs once said, the most powerful person is the storyteller. Stories have the power to capture and hold people's attention. Right? They can make complex ideas or dry information more engaging and more memorable because stories evoke emotions, right, which can help your audience connect with the content on a deeper level. Really, emotional connections can lead to better understanding and retention of information. So stories make the content more relevant and meaningful to their lives. Stories are that great. And the most common misconception is that you can't have storytelling in an educational video. But really in educational videos, storytelling can be it could be the very reason why people don't want to watch you in the first place. And you can actually build a whole channel off the quality of storytelling. Storytelling is that powerful. An example channel is My First Million. So they're more of a podcast that they turn into YouTube videos, but people really love listening to them because they manage to turn business content into stories. So let's go over a couple of important storytelling structures, and understanding these storytelling structures is actually important for you to actually execute on it. So my first storytelling tip is to use the hero's journey. So there's this thing called the hero's journey that pretty much every movie, every story follows. So it starts with a call to adventure. So over here it starts with a call to adventure, right? And then you go to threshold guardians, and then you find a mentor. There's challenges and temptations, right? There's a death and rebirth. There's a transformation. There's an atonement. And then you kind of like return to your normal life. It is just a storytelling structure to keep in mind where you want to go off on a journey, right? And then you build up tension to a climax and then you resolve the full story. And for something more actionable, right? Storytelling tip number 2, right? You want to use the somebody wanted but so then framework. And this is one of my favorite frameworks because it actually follows a rule where you want to write your script like you are talking. So what this means specifically is that somebody wanted is followed by the character's motivation, but introduces conflict, so outlines the events that worsen the problem, and then reviews how the problem is solved. And the reason why I love this storytelling framework so much is because all of storytelling is basically someone wanting to do something, so that's intention, and then there being an obstacle. And really this tension over here is what makes a story so exciting. An example of this is if you summarize Cinderella, it's Cinderella to somebody wanted to attend the king's ball, but the stepmother, right, which is kind of like the obstacle, forced her to do chores to keep her from going. So her fairy godmother helped her do the chores and get her to the ball, and then she met Prince Charming. The next storytelling tip is to start with the end in mind, right? And the reason I pasted this Ryan Trahan video is because he always manages to evoke a really great emotion at the end of each video, right? There's usually a lesson to be learned at the end of his video, and there are people saying, oh, this is such a mind-blowing video. And the reason he's able to evoke this great emotion is because he starts with the end in mind. He really thinks about, okay, what's the emotion that I want to evoke? And then he kind of works backwards from that. Think about what emotion do you want the viewer to feel, right? And that could be happiness, sadness, fear, disgust, anger, surprise, right? And then from there, you can work backwards to what you want the story to be. So storytelling tip 4, you really want to simplify your video down to the essence of your story. And if you really understand what the essence of your story is, you can build your story from there. So what this specifically means is you want to ask yourself, what are you really trying to say in as few words as possible, right? And strip away everything that distracts from that goal and be concise in your story, right? The simpler the story, the better. And storytelling tip 5 is to create contrast, because once again, as I said, it's somebody going on a mission, there's intention, and then there's some sort of obstacle. What is the reason for this guy's intention? And that's usually because, he used to be in state 1, right? Which is, not where he wanted to be. And then he wanted to be in another state, right? So it's really, you want to create contrast between, okay, where he was and where he wants to be. And when you create contrast, there's like, okay, he really wants this. There is an actual compelling narrative that makes it, okay, can he actually do this or not? And now the next part I want to go over is probably the most overlooked, yet I personally believe is to be the main difference between your channel absolutely blowing up versus you getting no views at all with your scripts. And that is how to write an outro. So in terms of outros and call to actions, right, really the call to action is a prompt at the end of the video to get the viewer to take what action you want them to take. In general, there are 3 types of call to actions. I would say number 1, it's selling them on watching another video. Number 2, selling them on liking and subscribing. And number 3, selling them on your offer or product or pitch. So let's get it out of the way, right? I don't think you should be using like and subscribe. I personally think if the content is valuable enough, the viewers will like and subscribe on their own. So at this point, it's more for businesses, right? You don't really need to pitch your offer unless it's a 40-minute plus long video where you give massive amounts of value to your viewer. Only then, I believe you have permission to pitch something, because if you're asking something from them, you better have given them something really good. And if your video is only 10 to 20 minutes long, I don't think there is enough information for you to justify a pitch. In general, I think you should always pitch to another video. When you call to action at the end of your video to another, really your end screen click-through rate will increase, right? And when the viewers go from one video to another on your channel, it creates kind of like a spider web that will solve all of your prospects' problems one at a time. Right? So your viewers will have all of their problems solved. They'll watch more of your videos. They'll be entertained because you tell them to click on this other video. And at the end of the day, it also increases the watch time on your channel, which will boost it on the algorithm. So I think the very first call to action I want to talk about is how do I write a call to action to another video? How do I get more people to click on the next video? I use a very simple call to action framework: hook, curiosity, and action. Right, this is the call to action framework that I use every single time to get people to click on another video. And I think this is pretty universal if you want to increase your click-through rate. And I'm going to explain how to use this. You want to start with a hook to get their attention just before the end of the video, because just as you're reaching the end of the video, the viewer is kind of like, okay, is there going to be any more value? There usually isn't. So you want to hook their attention one more time to get them to perk their ears up. Okay, there is something more important that is to be said over here. Number 2 is curiosity, right? So curiosity means to create like a knowledge gap, which creates demand for what you're about to pitch next. So if you're telling them, oh, hey, actually, now that I've talked about this, you kind of have to know about this too. So there's really a gap. So therefore, if you click on this other video, I'll teach this other new thing to you. And then action just means the action you want them to take, which is basically click on this video. So an example call to action to another video. So that's exactly how you send 1,000 cold emails every single day on autopilot. That's like before the hook. But the hook will be, but there's something that I didn't tell you at the start of the video. Oh, like what is that, right? What's this thing that you didn't tell me? And then you want to use curiosity, which is everything that I just told you is completely useless if you don't know how to use it to make money for your business. Now I know all of this, but I don't know how to make money from business. So there is a knowledge gap there. So the action is click on this video over here if you want to learn how to get clients with cold email in 2024. And I'll see you in the next one. Now, the next question that I always get is it worth the effort? So let's run some math to actually prove that writing the call to action, right, and spending some time on this is actually worth the effort. So the typical end screen click-through rate to another video on a typical channel is about 5%. So with my channel and my clients' channels, right, just using this framework for our call to action, our end screen element click-through rate is 15%. And that is actually 3 times more people clicking from one video to another, right? Instead of 5%, it's 15%. So assuming if you have 1,000 people watching your video to the end, 150 of them will click as opposed to only 50, right? And if you do this for every video, the number of people we get from one video to another will compound. So if you have, instead of 15%, 15%, 15%, 15% on every single of your videos, as opposed to 5%, 5%, 5%, 5%, and you post 30 videos, that is a lot more people watching one video to another. And really, this is a 1% improvement to your call to action that pretty much no one else will do. I personally think it's worth, to take 5 minutes of your time to script it out. Just script out your call to action. And now we're going to talk about how do you pitch your product or offer. So really, for more value-based videos, you'll want to pitch your offer, right? You'll want to do a call to action to your offer. And really, this is only applicable if you're selling something. Couple mistakes, right? You don't just want to tell them to go and book a call with your business. Big no-no, right? Number 2, you want to hook them in and sell them on the idea of working with you. And number 3, you want to create a logical path for them to working with you given the amount of work that they have to put in. An example over here. So say the video is on how to start signing clients with cold email. That is a full tutorial on how to start signing clients with cold email. Over here, we really want to sell them on working with us. So no doubt, you can take everything that I've explained in this video and start running your own cold email campaigns. And you'd probably never have to worry about when you'll get your next client ever again. But the truth is, it is much easier said than done. See, I hook them in one more time. It's much easier said than done. There is much more to getting clients from cold email than just what I've talked about. So you have to make sure that your cold email copy resonates with your target customer, your inbox is managed, your leads don't fall through the crack, and that you pick the right strategy for your specific business and offer. And if at any stage you make a mistake, your whole campaign is toast. But you can see how I kind of take them through a logical path. That's kind of how you want to do a call to action to your pitch, right? And once again, spending a little bit of effort, scripting it out, it is worth it because your conversions will increase. You actually want to avoid these mistakes in your call to action, right? Number one, it's recapping the points, right? If they need to revisit a point, they can rewind to the part that they missed. Number two is having multiple call to actions. Having multiple call to actions, also a big no-no, because a confused viewer doesn't know what to do. And number three, it's not giving a reason for why they should follow through with the call to action and being lazy of it. So the next most important part that really everyone neglects is how to edit your script. So why edit your script in the first place? Really, the main reason is that your first draft will never be perfect, right? In fact, from what I've seen, the first draft for pretty much every single writer is terrible. And that's okay, right? We're really not looking for perfection in the first draft, right? Editing is probably one of the hardest things that you can possibly do because it takes so much attention. It requires you to be so critical of your work. But as Stephen King says, to write is human, to edit is divine. In general, I think every script should go through 1 to 2 rounds of editing because we don't want to rush this process, because if we do, even the edited version will be complete trash. So you really want to take your time to edit your piece of writing, right? Look at every single word, make sure every single word is good. In terms of principles on how to edit a script, number one, I would say incubate. If you really think about writing a script, after you write, a full 2,000 words, let's say, and you just edit it, you won't get to see it with a pair of fresh eyes. You'll be like, oh, actually this writing's pretty good, because you just did it. What you actually want to do is you want to let the writing sit. You want to go on a walk, you want to go take a nap, or maybe you just leave it to the next day for you to edit. And number two on how to edit a script, it's write like you talk. So you really want to be reading your script out loud, because at the end of the day, a YouTube video is just you talking to the camera. It's like you talking to a friend. It kind of wants to be like a conversation. So you don't want to say any crazy words. So you really want to simplify your language, and you want to be able to write like you talk. Number three, my third piece of advice when you're editing a script is to download Grammarly. So if you don't already know what Grammarly is basically a spelling checker. It's a grammar checker. It helps you resolve all of the tiny mistakes so that when you get on recording, you're not like, okay, is this weird? Is this weird? Is this weird? And number four, I'd look out for, is there a logical flow from one point to another? So when you read out your script, if there is no logical flow from point 1 to point 2 to point 3, from sentence 1 to sentence 2 to sentence 3, your video won't come off appealing, right? Your video script won't actually be good. So you want to be editing for all of these 4 things, right? You want to let it incubate, you want to write like you talk, download Grammarly to solve all the small grammar errors, and then check for if there is a logical flow from one point to another. And I think the best way for me to show you how to edit is to edit the script live. So we're going to switch to Google Docs, and we're going to look at a script that one of my writers wrote so that you kind of know what to do, what not to do when you're editing a script. So now we're going to be doing some editing live. So to give you a little context about this video, the video title is over here on the top left, right? The fastest way to ruin your YouTube channel. So it is more of like a negative angle where, okay, like you mentioned a point, and then you talk contrary about why they shouldn't do it. So it's like saying, oh, the fastest way to ruin your YouTube channel is to, not be consistent in your uploads. So, okay, not being consistent in your uploads, then that way the viewer knows I do need to be consistent in my uploads. So like, to give even more context, this video title I actually give to all of the applicants who apply to my scriptwriting agency and they write a trial script like this. So I'm going to review one of these live and show you how I would edit a script like this whenever, if I were to write something like this, or if someone brings me their piece of writing. So here goes, right? The hook, right? There's a bunch of ways you can completely ruin your YouTube channel. Okay, so you state the title again, right? But if you know what not to do, you'll know what you can do and grow a successful channel with hundreds of thousands of subscribers and easily blow up on YouTube. So I'm already reading this out loud, and it's really kind of difficult to read out loud. So this sentence is probably a little too long. So the first thing that I will do when editing is not to actually edit itself, right? I want to make comments first and then I'll edit it after, because, if I'm switching between, figuring out what is wrong and actually editing it, it becomes very confusing after a while. So what I want to do is I'm going to put comments on each part that I want to edit, and then afterwards I'll edit it. I'll kind of show you how I do the commenting part of it, because actually once you put a bunch of comments on what you need to resolve, immediately it becomes a lot clearer how you want to change it. So really each line, I'm going to be very critical about it, and I'm going to point out problems with each line, right? This one I could say probably this is too long, hard to pronounce. might make it shorter or into 2 sentences. Okay, so to ruin your channel, start by choosing the broadest niche. I'm like not even sure whether this is like the best possible point, because like there's nothing wrong with like picking a broad niche, you know, so it's like not immediately obvious. Why is this wrong? Okay, what is wrong with picking a broad niche? If this is the point that we're gonna make, we have to like really substantiate it. I don't think this point or like this payoff or this sub point is even that great of a point to pick, right? So when choosing a niche, make it as broad as possible. So it's like, okay, why are you repeating yourself? Don't box yourself by niching down. Put zero thought into the topic. Okay, what topic? So it's like not clear, right? Don't box yourself by quote unquote niching down. What does that mean, right? So like immediately in the first couple sentences, I can already identify very big mistakes, right? Because it's not clear what niching down is. And when you're saying something, especially towards the start of the video, you want to be very clear, right? Make videos on a whim, right? So it's like, okay, we can probably simplify whatever springs to mind. So like this isn't a complete sentence, right? And like sometimes there's nothing wrong with not having an incomplete sentence, but like this is very clearly an incomplete sentence. Have no cohesiveness to your channel. Okay, cohesiveness we can probably simplify. This is like a very big word. Have no cohesiveness to your channel, so you always keep your audience on their toes. So like what does on their toes mean? What does that mean? Are we like scaring our audience? I'm not sure, right? Appearing scattered with your video topics will reduce the chance of going viral. Maybe not really, but like also like what does having multiple topics have to do with going broad, right? So like the link isn't clear, and make sure the algorithm never pushes your video. Like I don't really make sure like like we can't control this, right? So like you kind of get what this writer's trying to say, but he also doesn't make it very clear. So like as the editor or like as the writer, you have to make it very crystal clear what you're trying to say and really take it, like look at the video from the viewer's point of view, which is great because you won't have to deal with ever being successful. Take advice from nobody, right? Okay, so it's like, okay, where's the transition from here? Where is the transition? Okay, this also is like kind of general, not necessarily related to YouTube. So it's not immediately clear what this has to do with YouTube, right? Pay no attention to successful YouTubers and always assume you know best. Pay no attention, so you mean don't pay attention, to successful YouTubers and always assume you know best. You know best about what? This is weirdly phrased, right? When I read it out loud, it's kind of weird. In fact, disregard all advice. So it's like, okay, you're doubling down. Okay, why are we doubling down here, right? Go through life with a fake sense of self-worth, even if you've never done anything to warrant it. So like, what does warrant mean? Can't simplify, probably. Assume every YouTuber is a scammer. Is this an assumption that people make, right? If this is an assumption that YouTubers make, then maybe this is something valid, but I don't think that people who run a YouTube channel think that every YouTuber is a scammer. And all courses are a way to steal your money. So like, why are we suddenly bringing in courses? Like, why suddenly talk about courses? Seems kind of odd to suddenly talk about courses, right? Do you think YouTube gurus are really dropping the secret sauce anyways? What sauce, right? Also like kind of random to bring in. Also like this wasn't like really the tonality that we were talking about. Also like quote unquote YouTube gurus. So it's like, oh, he's like trying to attack somebody. It's like also not clear why this is suddenly brought up. There's like no really context to it. Why would they create more competition for themselves? Here, like, okay, here we have 2 questions stacked on top of each other. So when we usually see questions in the script, we can usually turn that into a statement, right? So like usually when you have a question, you know, you're like trying to write in a more conversational tone, but usually it's a lot more direct if you just turn that into a sentence. So why would they create more competition for themselves? It's like they wouldn't want to create more competition for themselves. So that's one way you could turn it into a sentence. So here we have 2 questions stacked on top of each other. How can we turn this into a statement? Avoid every opportunity to learn and improve your content so you never have to take ownership when things go wrong. So this is kind of like repeating, right? Packaging, okay? Never study thumbnails or titles, okay? That's probably fine. Or like I would probably split this into 2 because these are 2 different points, right? Split into 2 points. Knock up a thumbnail in minutes, or even better, use AI so you never have to do the work. Like these 2 points are like not necessarily the same. Also, like it's not very clear what the sentiment around AI thumbnails is. I know there are some tools that aren't that great there, but maybe there are tools out of there. Do most people use AI? It's like kind of odd to say, oh, just use AI. I would say it's not relevant. And don't bother to ask yourself if the AI has done a good job. Just trust it blindly, exclamation mark. Kind of odd. It's still very weirdly phrased if you ask me. It just doesn't flow well. This way, you'll be sure that no one clicks on your videos. Start the sentence differently. Constantly remind yourself that the top creators only clickbait anyway. It's like not true. Also not an assumption that beginner YouTubers have. This is also like something odd to say. Maybe if it was like 2015, then saying this in a video would kind of make sense, but like not really. Do this to appear superior to peers and yourself. So no one really says peers, right? No one says peers. Do this so often that you actually start to believe it and become so obnoxious that no one wants to help or support you. So it's like here, we kind of start with the point of packaging. And then how do we end up that like no one likes you? It's like, oh, this is also not relevant to the main sub point here. So we also really want to be careful. Like here we kind of like just ramble a little bit and then we go so out of left field. It's not even remotely close to what we were talking about. On the off chance that you do get to connect with other creators, make sure to point out everything you think they're wrong about, even if you're unqualified to do so. This also doesn't link to the main point, right? Bonus points if there's someone who can truly help now or in the future. Aim for a non-professional look. I'm not going to go through and edit this whole script, but here, like just looking at the first 3 subpoints or the first 3, main payoffs, you can kind of see every sentence, if you are not really careful when you write a script, can be kind of off, or there is some improvement that you can make to every part of the script. And maybe this is a little more of an advanced, a more extreme example where, okay, there's like errors in every sentence, but like really, if you are very attentive and you look very closely at the way that you write and you're being very critical, and here in this case I am being very critical because that is kind of the standard that you need to have when you are writing a YouTube script, right? The script has to be really good. There is almost no room for error, or at the very least it can be like very minor errors, but generally you want your script to be as good as possible. And that's really looking at each sentence and each word. Does this word fit? Does the sentence fit here, right? Does it fit the structure, right? Is it flowing right? Here, you can very well see that we stray away from titles and thumbnails very quickly, right? And that could just be because he doesn't know what else to say about titles and thumbnails, which is like, okay, then it probably means that on the research stage, you're probably not doing something right? Maybe your research stage isn't as complete, right? And because your research stage isn't as complete, that's why you kind of have the problem here of your script being relatively incomplete and you kind of like straying away from the main point because you're just trying to fill gaps, which is pretty terrible, and it's not very close to what you want in an ideal script. That's kind of like, I think the main takeaway is that, like, number one, when you're editing, you want to be very ruthless with yourself. This could be your own writing, right? And maybe the writing, isn't as far off as this, but you still want to be very ruthless, right? Does this line fit here? Is there any way that I can improve the line? And, really just being able to see what is wrong with these individual sentences. You want to think, how can I simplify words? What words are potentially too complex? And you want to make comments on your whole script, right? So this script goes on for a little longer. I'd imagine pretty much every single sentence would need some sort of editing. If we look at this, right, aim for a non-professional look. Okay, never prioritize video quality. Okay, convince yourself it's 2024 and authenticity is back. Also, this is kind of random. You don't even really mention authenticity. Is authenticity something really in the back of people's minds right now? Like, that could potentially be the case. You need to do a little bit more research. And what's more authentic than the grainy pixelated webcam look from 2005? This is also like not accurate, right? Who has something like this? So don't waste your money on fancy cameras or studio microphones. Okay, also like not necessary all the fancy equipment, right? That way you'll never have clear and crisp visuals. Is this the big goal? Only unclear, distorted audio that really annoys your audience. So like really, we can probably cut out. So like in general, any words that end with ly or adverbs you can probably cut out, right? And it's less like annoys your audience. It's more, makes your audience click off, right? Tell yourself that your message is so important, unique, and interesting that it will solo carry the video. Solo carry is like, this is more of like a gaming term. Like most people don't know what this means. Tell yourself that your message is so important, unique, and interesting that it will solo carry the video. Sure, I'm also like not too sure how to improve on that, so I'll kind of leave it at that, right? This way, when your audience doesn't tune in, you can tell yourself that they're the ones missing out. Do people really have this mindset? I feel like people don't really have that mindset, right? Forget about fancy lighting, soundproofing, or appearing professional. Also, like here, right, fancy lighting, like, fancy and lighting, like not a good descriptor. Here we say it's like non-professional look, like maybe soundproofing, like also not accurate. Here when we say like look, like it's like how we appear, so it's like also not really related to like the main payoff. Assume natural light is overrated. Also like where does this kind of come from? And your neighbor's dog barking in the background adds to that real life feel. Do people mention this? This really comes down to actually not understanding where your current audience is at, or like over exaggerating, right? And really, if you over exaggerate it, it's tough for your audience to really connect with what you're trying to say. Never edit your videos so you don't appear to care. People do edit their videos. Also, like, don't appear to care, like that's like very loose language, I would say. Caring about your videos only adds pressure to your life and value to your audience. Leave in every and technical glitch. No one really says technical glitch. I kind of understand what he's trying to say, but it's like probably wrong word choice. And tell yourself your viewers love seeing you go through the same struggles in them. Kind of odd phrasing. This way you'll never have to pay someone or put in effort yourself. Also, like, doesn't necessarily link to a non-professional look. Here, you can see on a line by line basis that there are quite a few problems just by like commenting like this. If you do this for your own script, and be very critical. Okay, each line there's something wrong, then you can change it up, right? In this case, I would probably rewrite the full script if you have, probably this many mistakes in your script. If not, like, if you just have like a couple of changes, right? And some of these changes are like really are like relatively simple. You can just change it line by line. Then yeah, like go ahead, just edit it line by line. So now what I want to do is break down some of my most popular videos on this channel. So that would be how to make a killer YouTube video for the 2024 algorithm, which got 15K views in just a couple of days. I want to show you how I managed to go viral on a completely fresh channel with a really good quality script, and really show you how to apply some of the principles that I've talked about beforehand, and really take you through my thought process of how I write these specific scripts, how I write the hook, how I write the body, and the flow of thought when doing that. This video managed to get 10,000 plus views in just a couple of days on a completely fresh channel, I believe just because of the quality of the script writing. Okay, so over here, the title of the video once again is how to make a killer YouTube video for the 2024 algorithm. I just kind of wrote the structure here. I obviously fleshed out the structure a little bit, but the structure would be, right, we start with the idea, title and thumbnail, script, filming and editing. These are like the main sub points within the video that I want to cover. And then we have the outro and call to action. So like this is like the main structure of the video. So for the hook, one killer YouTube video could completely change your life, right? So immediately a strong first line, right? It's a statement. It immediately hooks you, right? It can completely change your life, right? That's a very bold claim to make. So if I were to use this strong of a hook as a bold claim, I need to back it up with reasoning in the second sentence. So let's see what the second sentence is, right? It can give you the momentum to go from 0 to 100,000 subscribers in record-breaking time, just like many of your favorite creators who became successful on YouTube because of one viral video, right? And on screen, it will pop up all the favorite creators, right? And here there's clear backing up of the very first sentence, right? Going from 0 to 100,000 subscribers in record-breaking time, who became successful on YouTube just because of one viral video. I've spent the past 5 months researching the biggest creators on this platform. So that is me spending time out of my day, and the viewer only has to spend 10 odd minutes to watch my video. 5 months in exchange for 10 minutes, that's a pretty good trade, right? That's the function of this sentence. And in this video, I'm going to reveal how to make a YouTube video that will blow up your channel. And it all comes down to 5 simple steps. So this last line sets expectations for what the viewer is going to get from the rest of the video. And I'm going to say it's 5 simple steps, so that way it's easily digestible. That's the hook. I think like a really good takeaway from this hook is that the first line must be really strong. And then if you use a really strong first line, you need to back it up with the next couple sentences. What I kind of want to show here is the body, right? The very first line is if you were to just mention the sub point and be like, okay, so the first step is to come up with a great idea. Look at what I do here. The first line here is the first step is the one that is by far the most important and yet also the most overlooked. Right, this is the open loop that I mentioned earlier. So this open loop, it creates a curiosity. And then even immediately after that, I don't immediately mention what the point is, right? You see, there are 2 different kinds of YouTubers. One of them pushes content every week without fail and try to win by overwhelming the YouTube algorithm with content. So I kind of built a scenario here. Go on time, set up the camera, hit film, talk to it for 10 minutes, post, and on to the next video. They get so caught up with the filming and editing process, they never leave room to think through what they are even putting out. They usually end up doing all right, getting 200 to 1,000 views. So here, I'm kind of creating a little bit of contrast, right? One scenario where you don't really think of the idea and you get 200 to 1,000 views. And then there is the other camp who takes their time to come up with the idea first. They spend days, weeks, even months coming up with something spectacular, and they create content around those ideas. But when they do decide to upload a video, it's a straight up banger. The audience loves it, the algorithm loves it, and their channel takes off. So you see here, this is a storytelling technique of creating contrast. So it is one state where it's like, okay, you don't really perform well because you don't really think of the idea. And there's the other camp who thinks of the idea first. So there's a contrast here. There's a little bit of tension here to show, okay, this is what it could be if you actually spend a lot of time on the idea. If you look at Mr. Beast's channel, so here I mentioned evidence, right? So if you look at Mr. Beast's channel, he uploaded 22 videos in 2023. If he wanted to, he could have uploaded 1 video a week, but he decides to put 3 times more energy into his best video ideas because the idea behind the video is that important. He says this himself, right? Here I double down even more, right? A good idea will get you 1,000 views. A great idea will make you millions. You can film, edit, and make the highest quality video in the world with Marvel CGI baked into it, but if no one wants to click it, it likely means your video idea was uninteresting. So the first step is to come up with a great video idea. You see over here, so after over 250 words, only then do I mention the first point, right? Which is, so the first step is come up with a great video idea. Only here do I reveal it. And after I reveal it, I need to show how to actually do it, right? So for me, what I do is take out a Google Doc and list out 100 potential video ideas. This could come from looking at the best performers within your niche, thinking about what ideas were successful outside of your niche and how you can apply it to your channel, and coming up with unique ideas that have never been posted before. From there, you'll want to narrow it down to 20 ideas, 10 ideas, and eventually a handful of ideas you can turn into videos. So there you go. That's the how of how to do it. So if you notice the structure, it starts with an open loop, and then it's why, right? This whole section is kind of a why you want to start with a great idea. What is it? Which is the first step, is to come up with a great video idea. And then over here is the how. We go with a why, what, how, and we kind of list out all of the questions that the viewer could potentially have about how to come up with a great idea, and we just answer every single one of them. Let's look at the next point. So this is the open loop once again, right? But most YouTube gurus, after coming up with ideas, there is one thing that YouTubers will completely neglect and leave till the end of the video creation process, when in reality, it should actually be one of the first things that you do. So here, this is an open loop, right? So when you open the YouTube homepage, viewers are presented with dozens of videos to watch. And with the addition of YouTube Shorts a few years ago, there is even less space for your video. So here, I presented a scenario of YouTube homepage with a bunch of videos to watch, right? So this is on the idea of there being a bunch of competition. And now I exaggerate, I double down even more, right? There's even less space on your video because of YouTube Shorts. So if your video does not stand out from the crowd, it will not get clicked. So that's why you want to focus on creating your title and thumbnail. Here, I put a scenario, right? Where it's like YouTube homepage, there's a lot of competition. That's why you need to stand out. So that's why you need a title and thumbnail. And then this is the what. You might think, man, the title and thumbnail aren't that big of a deal, but you need to realize that they are kind of like the bait in the mousetrap. So over here, you can see I'm actually scripting out how I will say it, right? So I'm directing myself in terms of, okay, I'm going to say it this way. Meh, the title and thumbnails aren't that big of a deal. So not just the script is important, it is how you deliver the script. So without some tasty cheese to draw the mouse in, there's a much lower chance that they just randomly end up in the trap. And how often does a mouse just trip and fall into a trap without bait? That's not to say we want to trap our audience, but it's a simple way of looking at it. Here, it's kind of dragged out a little bit. I would say that this part of the script could be improved. So when you look back, there's always improvements to be made, right? The more tasty and irresistible debate, the more mice we can catch. The more mice we can catch, the faster our channel blows up, and you know the rest. So what makes a great title and thumbnail? So we kind of have to elaborate on what's a great title and thumbnail. One of the big lessons here is to show, not tell, and I think I do it pretty good in this section. Let's compare some old and new YouTube videos from the biggest channels to see what mistakes they made and how they have improved over time. So here, I have the Hormozy video, right? This video, what I would do if I had gyms, only applies to gym owners, which is a tiny segment of the population. So the chances of people clicking on the video is much lower. For a video to blow up, you want to interest the largest number of people. Compare that with a recent video Alex Hormozy posted, which is this. Can you see how this title and thumbnail appeals to a wider audience? Now, not all the information may apply to gyms, but the guiding business principles are the same across the board, so gym owners will still click on the video. So here I am showing what a great thumbnail is, right? By doing comparison with bad thumbnail versus good thumbnail, so you can very clearly see what the differences are. And here I bring another example, right? All this old Cody Sanchez video that has small words in the thumbnail that are hard to read and have a weird red coloring to it. So here in the edit, we will visually show this. Versus this packaging which stands out. So there is, once again, contrast, right? Which is one of the big things, one of the big storytelling techniques, right? So versus this packaging that stands out. When we first see this, we see the title with the words millionaire investor. And then we look at the thumbnail which says buy a business for $0. And that immediately piques my curiosity. Not to mention that the colors pop and make me want to click. And then there's also this red highlight on the thumbnail. Now, I'm not saying that you should spend 50 hours in Photoshop every time you want to make a thumbnail, right? So it is resolving one of the objections or something that the audience think about. That's the purpose of this line. You don't just want to design something aesthetically pleasing. You want to think about the psychology when it comes to getting a click. And that means considering how your thumbnail will work with your title to create interest and intrigue. The best videos may not have the most beautiful thumbnails or may not have the most complicated titles, but they should work hand in hand to get the click. So here, this is all still why you want to have a great thumbnail, right? Or like this is also, trending towards like the how section. Here we give another example, right? Look at one of Mark Robert's oldest videos. So here I say you don't need the most beautiful thumbnails, and then I kind of want to give an example, right? That thumbnail was probably taken with his iPhone, barely edited, and the title is simple. But it's nothing like I've seen before, and the title makes me think, how can I do that at my next party? The language used here is like very engaging, it's very fast, and that's like very in line with like the pacing of the video that I wanted. When you're writing your script also, I was very conscious about the pacing of the video that I was kind of looking for. When I'm designing my title and thumbnail, I write out 5 to 10 variations of the video title and I'll ask my friends and family which one they will click on. So here, once again, is the how section, right? So how do you do it? Is 5 to 10 variations. The reason why there's such an emphasis on how to actually do it is because when your viewer walks away from the video, they need to have learned how to do something, right? And ideally, they would have learned how to apply something new that you would have taught to them. And that's the how section, right? Write out 5 to 10 variations. Or if you have a social media following, you can ask them too, right? Once you have finalized the title, get to designing the thumbnail, and again, you can have a few variations that you can get feedback on. Once you've set your title and thumbnail, you are ready to make the actual content of the video. So next, scene 3. This next step I'm about to share with you is perhaps the most disregarded step of them all, and yet is the one that drives the most results. Once again, another open loop. I'd imagine that we start with a why here, right? So in the 2024 algorithm, a common misconception is that YouTubers will tell you to optimize for click-through rate and watch time. But the truth is, the one metric that YouTube looks at more than anything is viewer satisfaction, right? If you would have watched to this point, I would have mentioned this at the very start. And that means whether people engage and thoroughly enjoy your video. So to increase viewer satisfaction, you have to create remarkable content. So once again, if you look at the flow from sentence 1 to sentence 2 to sentence 3, it flows very easily. There's a very logical flow where it's like, okay, we start off with the common misconception. What do people mostly get wrong? And what is it actually meant to be, right? It's actually meant to be viewer satisfaction. And it all comes down to the script writing process. So instead of telling you directly, okay, so the next step is script. The script is important because of this, right? I'm telling you, okay, actually, most people think it's this, but it's actually the viewer satisfaction that's important. The way that you actually optimize it is through the script writing process. And then I go on and tell you how to script it, right? So scripting is by far what I spend the most time on. And when done properly, it makes your filming and editing process much easier. The script will allow you to retain your viewers' attention, to grow your channel exponentially faster, and it will make your videos much more valuable and entertaining. It is how Mr. Beast is able to plan his large filming sets and the story he wants to tell in each video. The script is the difference between you building a 100,000 subscriber YouTube brand or staying stuck at 17 views a video. And then afterwards, I go into the how section of how to write a script. So it's like hook, body, and call to action. We've kind of talked about it. I don't want to go over that again. And basically, I repeat the same structure, right? You start with an open loop, you have the why, the what, how, and you have examples. You do a little bit of contrast, and I did it throughout this whole video and it worked, right? So here, I'm not going to go over all of this. If you want access to this transcript, you can get access to it through this course. So I will link it in the course. So subscribe to the newsletter and you can get access to this course, and then you can scroll down towards the bottom few slides and you can get access to this. The one thing that I want to talk about is the call to action. So the call to action kind of starts here. Oh yeah, and the last hidden step that I must mention is to be patient. The YouTube game is a process that takes time and effort to get right, and not everyone gets it on their first try. So don't be discouraged if your first video doesn't get picked up by the algorithm. Just give it some time. So here, this is kind of the last point. So if you like this video and want to see more in-depth breakdowns like this, drop a like and subscribe. So if you had watched the call to action section earlier, I would have mentioned that, oh, don't use like and subscribe, right? You should always want to pitch to another video or pitch to your offer. But in this case, this video was actually the very first video on my channel. So because it's the very first video, there isn't another video to do a call to action to. So you can't do a direct call to action to that. And it's my very first video on my channel. I definitely don't want to be pitching my offer. And I can only pitch my offer if it's like a 40-minute plus video. The only last pitch left is drop a like and subscribe. So that's what I did. And by the way, YouTube thinks you should watch this video. Let's see if they are right. So over here at the end, we don't have a specific video to call to action them to, because this is the very first video on the channel. I'm just saying, okay, click on this video, right? YouTube might recommend you something. So whatever is my next video that I'll do a call to action to that. So that is the breakdown of my very first script. Another script that I want to break down that I think also has really great value, really great lessons to learn from is my Iman Gadzhi script, how Iman Gadzhi made $40 million from one YouTube video. So let's look at that right now. So on the screen, right, the video how Iman Gadzhi made $40 million from one YouTube video, it is breaking down his best business models video. So I've linked it here, breaking down this video. And really the goal of this video that I had defined earlier, it's number 1 to go viral, and number 2, book 500 sales calls for my script writing offer. And you know what that specifically means is I really want to build authority. I want people to know that I am able to actually script a video. What we have to address for the audience to see me as an authority in scripting, we have to define these couple things, right? Which is going to be the main points of the video. So number 1, they have to know what a VSL is. So VSL is a video sales letter. I would have already described it earlier in the course. Number 2, break down the copy in a simple way. Right? It has to be simple for the viewer to understand. And also, I must be aware that most people don't understand how copywriting works, right? Most people don't understand the psychology behind it. So I have to break that down. And also, one of the visions that I had for this video is that I wanted to make the pacing of my video similar to how Iman Gadzhi did it, right? So his video is, narrated at a certain pace. I have to follow that exact pace. So I need to integrate the pacing of his video with the pacing of my video. So let's look at the hook, right? The hook starts with Listen up, because Iman Gadzhi made $40 million from one YouTube video and used it to pay for his private jet. And I think this first line is immediately very interesting. So here, right, it starts with listen up, right? And you think that, okay, usually you want to cut out a lot of the fluff when you are, writing your hook, and listen up sounds like something you can possibly cut. This is more of like a branding thing, because Iman Gadzhi in all of his videos kind of start with listen up, because Iman Gadzhi made $40 million from one YouTube video. You just repeat the title here, and used it to pay for his private jet. So here it's something very specific, right? It's because a lot of Iman's audience would be clicking on this video, or at least people who know Iman Gadzhi would click on this video. And during the time when this video was being released, or when I was going to release this video, it was pretty big news around the community that he was getting a private jet, or he was going to buy a private jet. Here I decided to insert that joke, and hopefully that resonated with the audience, and turns out it worked out pretty well. And because I want a private jet too, I spent 3 weeks slaving away at my computer to figure out how he did it. So all you have to do to become Iman Gadzhi is watch this video, right? And then it's the video plus graph animation. So what is the thought process kind of behind this, right? And because I want a private jet too, so it makes it kind of personal, right? Now I have an investment in wanting a private jet. I want a private jet. I spent 3 weeks slaving away, and all you have to do is this. So once again, it is a good trade of time. This is called an input bias, right? Where I put in 3 weeks of work, whereas you just have to put in 10 minutes of your time to watch this video. This is the video I'm talking about on Blur Plus Show, right? So here I'm really thinking about the visual storytelling, or how I can potentially visually represent what's on screen. The best online business to start as a beginner, which sits at over 8 million views. So immediately after this part, right, which sits at over 8 million views, what's like the next natural step, right? Let's see what I did, right? With an almost 40-minute video, he could have placed ads every 10 minutes and made tens of thousands of dollars in AdSense. So my current audience is, people who want to grow on YouTube, or people who are interested in Iman Gadzhi. That's the kind of people who will click on this video. Most people would think that the only way to make money on YouTube is through AdSense, right? Or is through ad revenue. That's where a lot of the channels make money from. But Iman Gadzhi is a little different. He sells a digital product, and that's how he makes his money. Really, what I wanted to target is to show, actually, you don't really need to make money from AdSense, or like more like Iman Gadzhi didn't make his money from AdSense, but actually he did it this other way. But when I clicked on this video, I noticed something: no ads, which I thought was silly at first. Why would you give away that much money on the table? But this move was actually genius. So it's like saying, oh, Iman Gadzhi kind of didn't do this, but I realized that it was actually genius. See, most YouTubers make money with AdSense and sponsorships. So that's the immediate awareness that I want to target. They sell someone else's product and take a tiny cut of the money generated with it. But Iman Gadzhi wanted not just a slice of the pie, but the whole cake. So here, there's kind of like a visual storytelling, which is why 8 years ago, Iman Gadzhi set a plan in motion. So here, we're kind of like saying, oh, Iman Gadzhi is kind of on a mission, right? He set a plan in motion, right? He's been scheming for a really long time. He spent years building up his audience, gaining their trust, and then made a product, which he subtly sells to his audience for the entire video. So here, on like the copywriting level, you can kind of see he started something, right? He spent years building his audience, gaining their trust, and then he made a product, right? You see, this isn't a normal video. This type of video is called a video sales letter, which is meant to get you completely convinced to buy a product after watching it. So a video sales letter, this is jargon that I'm introducing, right? And nothing wrong with including jargon, but you can only include it if you explain what it means, right? First of all, my audience probably doesn't know what a video sales letter means. So if I mention it and I don't explain it, then the viewer is much likely to click off. But if you're targeting a very technical audience, maybe it's okay to use more technical language, right? Which is meant to get you completely convinced to buy a product after watching it, right? That is the very base definition. That is the easiest way and simple way of explaining what a video sales letter is, or what a VSL is. Here, next line, right? Iman knew there was a problem with the old style of sales. When you see a sponsored spot or a sleazy sales guy, you skip, right? It's because you don't like being sold. But by the end of Iman's video, you are thanking him for selling you his product. Some going as far to praise him for being a savior, right? So it's like here, once again, what am I doing? I'm creating contrast, right? Previously, sponsor spot, sleazy sales guy, nobody likes that. But when he did this, everyone's calling him a savior, right? Everyone's saying that, oh, Iman's the best, right? Thank you for selling me the product, which is an ideal outcome that people want to have. So after spending hours breaking down his video, looking at every individual word he used, turns out he found a solution. And then it's like, okay, like what's the solution? And it all starts with phase 1, brainwashed. So here, I could have very easily just gone into talking about the script immediately. But what I realized is that there was a lot of needed context for the viewer to know what Iman Gadzhi was actually trying to do with the video. So I had to make it very clear what the goal of Iman's video was and really give the viewer enough context. So here, after the hook, you can see how much context that I give. It's about 250 words worth of context, which is about 1 to 2 minutes of context that I give to the viewer, so that the viewer has the frame to understand what I'm trying to say in this video, right? And only then do I actually go into the main piece of content. And it all starts with phase 1, brain wash, and then we fade into his video, right? So look, we're entering a new era. So like this is his video and I link the video for my editor to edit, right? So look, we're entering a new era, everything's changing. And then there's like the pause effect is what I imagine. Step 1, establish premise, and then you play, and I press play again, and then we go on to the next part. This is his video. So we're entering what experts are calling the new arbitrage economy, and these are a bunch of 20-year-olds taking advantage of it to get paid as much as a doctor every month without having any previous work experience. And then I link the video again, and then I pause it again. Step 2, induce fear and open a cliff between what the viewer knows and what they still want to know. So if the words here are kind of complicated, it's because that is intentional, right? But you said, Brian, why didn't you write simply here? But really what I'm trying to do here is create an open loop. So induce fear and open a cliff between what the viewer knows and what they want to know. And then I go back to this video, right? More about that in just a minute. See what he did there? And then that's kind of my line again, right? See what he did there? This intro is genius, right? Here I emphasize it genius because I'm gonna say it that way. With 10 words, he grabs your attention and then you play his graphic. Another 10, you're afraid. You play his graphic. Another 10, and you're hopeful, and then he takes you on a roller coaster. He swiftly takes out your critical thinking, and now you're curious, emotional, inspired, all at the same time, which lines it up perfectly for phase 2. So here I kind of explain, right? With all of these words he's saying, he actually brings out the emotion in us, right? He takes out your critical thinking and he makes you feel curious, emotional, inspired, all at the same time. So I immediately attribute a function to his hook, right? It's to get you to disengage your critical thinking. And then phase 2, I give it a good headline again, heighten expectations and don't close the loop. So once again, this function as like an open loop, but it is a visual open loop because I have this on screen, right? Very clearly, there is a curiosity gap. Like how does he heighten expectations? And then here I play his clip again, right? And then I do the same pause effect. So this is his clip and he plays the same pause effect. Step 3, handle objections. Answer every possible question that his viewer might have before they even get to say it. And then there's like another clip here. Step 4, and then I pause again, right? So it's the same effect. So it is play clip, pause, commentary, play clip, commentary, play clip, commentary, right? What is another way that, you know, it could be very easy to script this, right? It could be a large chunk of the video and then I commentate on it. This is really a more advanced way of doing the reaction type content. So when I was writing the script, I had to, you know, cut out clips, you know, I had to watch his video multiple times to figure out, okay, what chunks do I want to include in my video to show, you know, really what Iman is doing and what are the main crucial parts of his video sales letter that will be interesting to break down. And back to this, right? Step 4, identify with the viewer. He uses social proof that shows the transformation from his ideal customer's current state to their dream state, right? Giving evidence that if they learn about what this business model is or figure out what the new arbitrage economy is, they can make that sweet 10K a month. So here I'm explaining basically what he does with the case study. And it goes back to his video, right? Pause again. Step 5, establish the payoff. In the first 1 minute 50 seconds, he has convinced a completely cold viewer to watch the rest of the video, which is exactly the job of the hook. Here is kind of like a conclusion of the hook, right? What has he managed to do with the hook? Which brings us to phase 3, right? Breaking beliefs. Here's a voiceover, right? Iman Gadzhi understood this one thing, which allowed him to sell tens of millions with a single video. Before trying to get someone to take action, like purchasing something, you need to align your beliefs with theirs. Otherwise, it's kind of like telling a Christian guy to do some Buddhist prayer. It wouldn't make sense. Here I tried inserting a joke, maybe it kind of like fell flat a little bit, but here I kind of like gave a little bit of context on like what beliefs are. So once again, I introduce jargon, right? Which is breaking beliefs. So here I have to show something that's a little relatable. Here I also draw another analogy, right? Just in case it wasn't clear in the very first place. So let's say a salesperson is selling me a vacuum cleaner. I have to understand what technology the vacuum cleaner uses, why this vacuum cleaner is better than every other vacuum cleaner out there, have proof that the vacuum cleaner works. Now, Iman is not selling a Dyson V11, but the same concepts still apply. In this case, for me to buy his course on how to start an SMMA, there are certain facts that have to click in my head. The audience will be rather aware of him selling a course, so they'll be familiar with what SMMA means. If you know Iman Gadzhi, you know what SMMA means. So here it is okay to use jargon and not explain it. So that's really understanding where your current, or where the person who clicks on this video is at, like audience awareness wise. Why does this business model work so well? Why other business models don't work and SMMA is the best one, and prove that SMMA works? So I would need to make this clear to the viewer. And then instead of just, oh, he did this by talking about this, I take this opportunity to show, right? If I can show it with a clip, I will show it with a clip and I don't have to say it, right? Look at how he does it, right? 3 reasons why this business model works. So I flash clip 1, flash clip 2, and flash clip tree. So here, what I imagine is not just like, the clip playing on screen. Here, obviously I have to give the editor notes and I kind of make comments on how I'd imagine the edit to be. Oh, it will play the clip and then he would draw arrows. Play another clip, draw arrow, play another clip, draw an arrow to really visually show how he's doing each one of these over here. And then here we go to phase 4. I kind of did something similar, with a little bit of variation in terms of the structure, but pretty much, phase 1 to phase 5 is pretty similar. It's switching between clips and really using the clips to show instead of telling, right? You really want to demonstrate how to actually do it. You can go ahead and read the rest of this script. Once again, you can get it in the newsletter, you can get full course, and you can get access to these transcripts. But the main part that I want to look at right now is the call to action. So it starts here, but it worked. He converted all the attention he had captured in phases 1 to 4 and delivered the perfect right hook with a pitch. Here, over here, I talk about how he does a call to action, right? And how he gets people to pitch and the pitch being like 13 minutes long. So it starts here, right? Which is a testament that you should never overlook your call to action in your YouTube videos. So that is how Iman Gadzhi made millions with his famous Best Business Models video with just a PowerPoint slide and his voice. So once again, I wrap up the whole video, but I double down. Okay, the video did so well, even though it's just a PowerPoint slide and his voice. No fancy edits, no dramatic music. If that isn't testament to the power of a good script, I don't know what is, right? So it is once again reminding them, actually, the script is what really carried this, right? It's no crazy edits, no dramatic music. It's actually just the script that really drove a lot of conversions and allowed him to make $40 million. That's really the power of a good script. And speaking of a good script, so I do a little callback, right? Speaking of a good script, click on this video over here to learn how to script a viral YouTube video, just like Iman's. So once again, I'm doing a callback to what Iman did, and then here I use that as part of the call to action. So here there's really like the knowledge gap. Here it's really a modified version of the hook curiosity action, right? But like really the hook here, you could just say it's like the no fancy edits, no dramatic music, where it's like, oh wow, that's actually like really impressive. And then the knowledge gap is testament to the power of a good script. Here maybe I could have said, oh, if you want to make $40 million just like Iman, you need to know how to write a really good script, or that could be a little too repetitive. I think this was a really good script, right? This is a really good call to action. This call to action ended up getting like a 15.9%. I think I showed you guys a screenshot a little earlier, but at least a 15% end screen element click-through rate, which is one of the better call to actions over here. I'm not too upset about that. And if I would say what are the main takeaways really from this Iman Gadzhi video, I would say number 1, show not tell. You want to be showing, and the way that I did the showing was through the clips, right? You want to show and not tell as much as possible, right? It is very easy to go into default mode and just tell your audience, but what is a way that you can create a little bit of contrast and show and do a little of audio visual storytelling to get the viewer invested in the story that you're trying to tell, in the narrative that you're trying to push. So over here is the scripting framework that I use to write all of my scripts and all of my client scripts. And here you'll kind of see some similarities here. Over here, we want to have the title at the very start. So before we even write a script, we have the title just so that we can set expectations and then we can meet them in the hook and in the body. So some guiding questions over here. What are the questions that can come from the title, right? So as I mentioned earlier, with the title, there'll be a couple questions that come, and with those questions, right, you just list out all of those questions and then you answer each of them in the hook. That's how you write a really effective hook on top of, the hook being clear and engaging. And then a couple secondary questions, right? Who is your avatar? Who are you targeting? To remind you, okay, how can I tailor my language to this specific avatar? What objections might they have when they see the title? What transformation will they have in the end? What's at stake? What are the benefits of their dream outcome? So all of these are good guiding questions to help you write your hook. And pretty much once you answer all of them, your language can be more tailored for your hook. And then for the body section, here it's kind of like, it's pretty rough, where it's like, okay, here we start with open loop and then we have to pay off. And then within the body, the questions that we want to answer is, okay, why is this important? What is it and how? So we always do the why, what, how framework, or at the very least, these 3 questions need to be answered, right? And obviously within these, right, I'll be like, okay, what examples can I bring in? What are certain evidence? What are stories that I can tell based on this? And you can even build on these questions. Once again, right, to write the body, you write the payoff over here, and then you write open loop, and then you write the questions, and then you can just answer these questions, right? Why, what, how is just kind of like a guiding question base of like, okay, why something, what something, how something. And then over here, similarly, right, open loop, why, what, how, payoff. Here, open loop, why, what, how, payoff. And over here, you have the call to action, right? Which is make a point that links into the current video, widen the curiosity gap, and promise a specific transformation they'll experience by clicking the next video, right? So this is the hook curiosity action framework, right? So make a point, hook, widen the curiosity gap, which is the curiosity, and then what action do they want to take? And here you can write it out. And then over here, I would note at the end, did I run this script through Grammarly, right? So that way you can make sure that there are no grammar errors. Thank you for watching this video. Now, all that's left for you to do is to write your next script, apply these frameworks, and actually go viral. So if you want access to this presentation, the outlier format, the scripting frameworks, and my video transcripts, I highly encourage you to subscribe to my newsletter. The link will be in the description, and I'll send you this presentation directly to your inbox. And if you want to watch the Iman Gadzhi video that I hyped up so much, click on this video over here, and I'll see you in the next one.